Welcome to another episode of One-on-One with Mitch Lafon. I am your host, Mitch Lafon. Joining me this week, RAY LUZIER of Korn. And of course, this episode is brought to you by the Heavy Montreal Festival, taking place August 7th, 8th, and 9th at Parc Jean Drapeau in beautiful downtown Montreal. It features, well, Korn, of course. Faith No More, Slipknot, Dokken, Warrant, Fozzy, and just announced Extreme doing their Porno Graffiti full album tour. So that'll be exciting. And my co-host this week is Gerry Finn of the Killer Dwarfs. You also played with David Usher, of course. How are you, Gerry?
I'm good, Mitch. How you doing, man?
Good. Doing well. Alive
Wonderful.
and kicking, as they say.
Well, there you go.
Now, you with the wonderful Killer Dwarfs just played the M3 Festival down in the States. Good time, bad time? How was it?
It was probably one of the best organized and most fun festivals I've ever played. I was really pleasantly, surprised. I mean, I didn't have any expectations, but it was really, it was great. The site is beautiful, and the crew was great, and they just know how to do it. I think, they've done 5 or 7 of them or something, and whoever's the folks that are running the powers that be really know how to run a festival. It was great. We had a really great reception, so
Good.
lovely.
Good, yeah. And there's the Heavy Montreal Festival, which at some point we need to get the Killer Dwarfs on. We got to bring you to this part of the world. So RAY LUZIER, of course, is going to be here with Korn. He's played drums with David Lee Roth, among others. Sat in with Stone Temple Pilots, Billy Sheehan, the Nixons, and more. But he also did some work with you.
Yeah, he's gonna. Yes. So Ray and I played together. It's an interesting story. It was a really great band. The band members were myself, Ray, a guy named Ricky Walking, who's a virtuoso bass player who lives in Dallas now. But Ricky was in the Nixons, and he played with Gary Hoey and Tony McAlpine and Jennifer Batten and a bunch of these sort of shrapnel type guys. And Ricky's an incredible talent. And the singer was Ralph Saines, and Ralph, as you might know, is the singer in Steel Panther now.
Yes, and originally he was a replacement singer in L.A. Guns.
Sure, yeah. Well, that was after I played with him. So in the mid '90s, for about 3 years, we all played together in a disco band. And what's funny about that is that Ray's kit at that time was a bass drum with one rack tom that was attached to the bass drum, so he could carry all of that in one hand,
right?
And basically everything else in a bag over his other shoulder, which I think is hysterical because now I think he has the biggest drum kit I've ever seen. Right?
What was the name of that band? Because I saw Ralph back in the day with Atomic Punks, Danger Kitty. What were some of the other names that because they were always at the Viper. What was the other band?
Yeah, well, I mean, that band that turned into Steel Panther was called Metal Shop originally.
Yeah,
I was actually at the first show. So in Las Vegas, the great Russ Parrish plays guitar in that band too, and Russ is an amazing player.
Yeah, having played with Rob Halford in Fight.
You got it. Yeah, exactly. Yep. So so I mean, we played disco music. We played Casey and the Sunshine Band.
Did you really?
Rick James and you name it.
That's funny.
And it was great. We played 4 nights a week for 3 years. So Ray and I spent a lot of time together, and we're still really good buddies. So.
It's amazing though, and it goes to show that if you believe in music and you believe in the whole thing, any gig's a good gig. Just keep honing your chops, and eventually something will come. I mean, Ray is now in Korn, and of course passing through David Lee Roth, which is nothing to sneeze at. Ralph's got the Steel Panther, which is doing great business. They're coming back to Montreal again later in May for, probably the 4th show in 3 years, right? They opened for Judas Priest. You're down at M3, big festival with the Killer Dwarfs, and it just goes to show, if you believe, just do it. Keep going. So.
Oh, for sure. And you should never be too proud to put on a pair of platform shoes and some sequins.
So there you go. Now, have you seen Ray with the Korn?
So yeah, I have many times now. So I mean, of course, everybody's aware of Korn because they're such a big band, but they weren't really on my radar until he got the gig.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to see them. The first time I saw them was in Toronto, and I was knocked out. I mean, they're really undeniable. I sort of see them as like elite performers, like
Yep.
they're at the top of the game, and they really mean it. They're great. They're a great band. Yeah, they knocked me out.
And that is why they are headlining the first night of Heavy Montreal on August 7th.
Yeah.
You don't get to headline that festival if you're not at the top of your game. So there you go. So why don't we take a listen to my interview with Ray, and we talk Korn, we talk Army of Anyone, the band that he was in the early 2000s, and of course,
Great band. Yeah.
yeah, and he mentioned that there might be some more Army of Anyone coming soon. So
Cool.
that's exciting because that first album, I don't know if you want to call it a cult classic or just a classic. Where would you put it? Is it a cult classic or is it a classic?
It's funny. I don't know what you would call that. I don't know how much they sold. Maybe that's the barometer, or that you would use.
That's exactly it, right? It's one of
Yeah.
those that I think a few select people got a chance to check out and are glad they did, but it should have been wider spread. But hey, there should be more coming up. So anyway, like I was saying, let's sit back, listen to Ray, and we'll be back after the interview. Here's Ray. Let's talk. Let's talk Korn. Let's talk the 20th anniversary album tour.
Yeah.
But first, let's start off with something more important than any band, and that is you have a new member of your family.
Yes, I do. Thanks for asking. Beck Jagger Luzier was born 6 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And it was kind of alarming. My girl was had a high risk pregnancy, so it was really scary because she had to have him 35 weeks, not full term. So I was actually in California on a tour bus on my way to Tempe, Arizona, in the middle of the desert, and got this call. And thank God my drum tech's a good enough drummer. He actually filled in the show for me that night in Tempe, and she had an emergency C-section, and very scary. 11 days in the NICU, but now everything's on the up and up and much better. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's got to be comforting to know that everyth's better and you're able to relax and get back on the road. What does it mean to you to be a dad and to be, with kids? I mean, I have two of my own, and I wouldn't change it for anything. So what does it mean to you?
Well, it's everyone says it's life changing. You really don't know how life changing it really is until you go through it. And I'm glad I waited till I was older because I've been touring for 23 years now. Mm-hmm. And before with David Lee Roth and Army of Anyone, those bands didn't want to go home, and I didn't want to go home either. It's like why would we want to go to our houses when we could go live on the road and play music every night? So, but obviously family changes everything. And I don't now. My 4-year-old tugs at my leg and says, "Daddy, please don't leave," and it drags your heart every single time,
I can imagine.
But my girl was a full-time model, and she understands me leaving, and the kids, it's hard for them to understand. But eventually, hopefully, they'll understand this is what Daddy does, and he's got to go out and make a living. And but the great thing about it is my whole band has kids. Jody has 5. James is number 3 is coming up. John's got 3. Has got a daughter. So we never go out for more than 5 or 6 weeks. We always go home and touch home base. So they understand the importance of family, and that's definitely first in this band.
Now speaking of your extended family, the band Korn, you were a session drummer for many, many years. You were on albums with Billy Sheehan and David Lee Roth and all that. But now you're in this stable situation. Tell me a little bit about what it means to be in Korn for you, having that sort of stable unit.
It's awesome. I mean, if you told me, 8-10 years ago I'd be a member of Korn, I would laugh in your face because you never know what's around the bend, and the music business is a very fickle, very funny thing. One day you have a crappy gig, the next day you're in a stadium. For many years I paid my dues putting disco wigs on, like with Gerry and various people, and I'd teach a drum lesson, I'd play a movie soundtrack, and I'd go on a tour with Jake Ely from Ozzy and play. It's like I had a very, very rocky road, rough, but I wouldn't change it for anything because it made, I didn't get in a hit band and stay on this cloud. Very few musicians in their lifetime will ever get to experience mass success, let alone for decades. I envy Korn, the original guys, just because to hit that big and stay on this cloud, and then we're headlining Carolina Rebellion tonight over all these massive bands, and it's a great feeling. I never take it for granted. When I got the gig, I remember telling my friends, "Hey, if I get 1 year of touring at this, I'll be happy." This is October starts year 9, so it's really insane.
Wow, it really
It
is.
really, yeah.
Tell me a little bit about how you adjusted your drumming style, if at all, because the style of music that Korn does is remarkably different to what Billy Sheehan does, really different to what Diamond Dave does, different to
Yeah.
some of the other stuff. Did you have to take lessons? Did you have to study the albums, or was it just there and you just sort of, all right, I'm in, I'm
Yeah,
good?
no, totally. In fact, when I got the call, my last band, Army of Anyone, with Robert and Dean from STP and
Right.
Richard from Filter, that band was totally different than Roth and Korn. So it was, I think the years of doing sessions so much,
Right.
And having to adapt and be a chameleon to I'd literally meet a bass player and guitar player, and 5 minutes later the red light would be on and we were rolling tape. So when you do that for so many years, you kind of get used to different styles and different things. But I always say this: there's no band like Korn. No one. They have a certain groove and a certain feel that it pushes and pulls, it bends, it swings. It's funky, it's groovy, it's metal. There's so many different things in there. So it took me quite a while. And when I first got the gig, we were supporting the Untitled record, which had we played 6 or 7 tunes off the album that Terry Bozzio played on. And I'm a huge Bozzio fan, so right away I was really into playing this, let alone with the Korn hit. So, it took me a while. It was just a thing of getting inside the music. And the Korn fans are die hard, man. They're like no other. I mean, it was to be expected with Dave to have many different musicians. They know that they're going to have a different drummer, guitar player, every couple of years. But the Korn fans have all 5 members tattooed on them. They have all the albums going down their. I mean, I had no idea the magnitude and worldwide appeal that this band had until I really got deep into it. When they asked me to join in '09 full time, I was like, wow, okay. I know I was going to take a lot of scrutiny from fans, but hopefully, I lit a fire too, because this is all I do. I've never had substance abuse. I've never done anything but play music. So to me, it was really important to, the cool thing about it was when I got the gig, they said, we want RAY LUZIER to stand. We want you, you can pay respect to the former drummer, but we really want you in this band and your flavors and your hits. And I really appreciated that, so. It was like joining like no other band. There's no way to compare it with anything that I've done in my entire career. And it's quite amazing when you play these shows and you hit a kick drum or pluck a guitar string and you're projecting over 40,000 people and they're all connecting and uniting, and it's really powerful,
Oh, it really is. Now, when you joined the band, Head wasn't there. And Head came back. It's a little bit like Ace Frehley rejoining Kiss. What does he mean to the band, and what have you seen in terms of a difference in terms of performance or fan reaction? Because you sort of saw both sides. You saw without, and then like, oh, now he's back. I get it. What does he mean to you?
Yep. It was really huge because I got in. There was a hard gun, Shane Gibson, who was a phenomenal guitar player.
Absolutely.
Who unfortunately a year ago passed away from alcohol, and Wes Geer from Head PE took his place, and Clint Lowry was before Shane. And they've had 3 guitar players since Head left, and actually Rob Patterson. There's 4 because right when Head left, he played off stage. So these guys that get hired, obviously they don't want to lose the gig, so they play so precise and so good that it's almost too perfect. You know what I mean? Korn has a swagger about it, and
agreed.
When you play really, really tight, it's almost not the part, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And listen, as a huge Kiss fan and as a Korn fan, when you hear a Bruce Kulick or an Ace Frehley, they're technically great players, but it almost sounds like a doctor doing surgery, Whereas Ace Frehley is happily sloppy. And I'm not saying that Head is sloppy, but there's a
No.
rawness and energy. There's
Yep.
that.
And that's and
Yeah,
it's funny because when he came back, you immediately, I mean, let alone writing wise, it was awesome to have him in there. But on stage, it was like immediately the looseness was just like all there. And it's like, you know, I'm the one driving the boat, and if the ship, if I derail, it's not good.
right.
So you really got to find that balance point. But it's changed for my playing. It's made me, you know, bend my time. It's made me, you know, David Lee Roth. I had a point. I had to play as perfect as possible, and no one's perfect. So, but Dave's a very much a slave driver, and we rehearsed a month before we left on tour, and it was very much a very different style. Army of Anyone, they have a looseness. They're very much into Zeppelin, and but a different kind of looseness than Korn, you know. So, yeah, I mean, it was to answer your question, it was a huge difference when he got back, but the vibe was undeniably great. I mean, it's just okay, great. My goal since I got in this band was to be the guy driving the 4 original members, and fortunately, the last 3 years that's what's been happening. And I can't wait to get in to write another studio record. We're going to start the end of May writing again, and I'm really stoked, you know.
Yeah, in fact, I
So,
was going to ask you about that because Paradigm Shift was a couple of years ago. Um,
yep.
Honestly, though, are albums sort of a thing of the past? Are they a relic? Does it make sense to put 12 songs together in this day and age? Is not like 3 and then send it over to iTunes or
Yeah, it's so weird these days. You know, I talk about people with this all the time, and people. It's sad because people come up and go, "Yeah, I bought songs 3, 7, and 9," and you're like, "Cool." And you know, the days of like
yeah,
telling
you're
a
like, wait a minute.
story on a the days of telling a story on a record is just like the concept thing. It's so far out, especially, you know. But you know, I'm one of those weirdos. I mean, I'm also 44, but I'm one of those guys that still goes to Best Buy and Target, and I'll buy albums on iTunes because I believe in supporting the artist. I know how hard it is for us to work on a record,
Mhm.
and if it's going to be $12, you can't afford that. I don't believe that. So yeah, people are coming to the shows, and you can't replace live entertainment. But at the same time, it's a huge deal to me to support what. Yeah, we're in there for 4 to 6 months recording a record, pouring our blood and sweat into it. Buy the friggin' record, man. It's not a big deal, you know.
Yeah, I fully
You know,
agree.
Korn had. I'm lucky enough to play on the number of Korn's first single, Never Never. And it's. I think we're a little over 210,000 copies, and to me, that's
Wow.
just hilarious. With a band that sold 38 million, you know.
Yeah, I know.
So, you know, but what are you gonna do? You can't cry about it. You got to adapt with the times. You got to stick with what's going on, and so. You know, I kind of I love the internet because it's instantaneous. You can put a song out in 15 minutes or 2 minutes later, it's in Germany, and you can have, you know, people listening to full stereo, full production.
Hmm.
But you know, I said Korn fans bringing up CDRs to me, blank CDRs with Paradigm Shift written on it, and asked me to sign it, and I'm like, really, dude?
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
asking me to sign this blank CD? Yeah, I just don't. Yeah, but I'm at your concert and I bought a ticket. And I'm like, yes, you did. And they go, but the CD was 12. Yeah. So I go back and forth. It really upsets me because I'm one of those old school guys. But you can't. You're not going to fight it. I mean, I'm really happy. Today's sold out. Carolina Rebellion. There's over 45,000 people here. Rock is far from dead, man.
Yeah, it really
So
is. And by the way, as a rock reporter, I agree with you. You know, I interviewed David Coverdale last week, and I had a link for the Purple album. I loved it so much, I went and got the Japanese version. I really believe you got to support the artist, even if you get it for free. You still got to throw your 10, 12, $15 out there. It's important.
yeah.
I do want to talk to you about KXM, your band with Doug Pinnick from King's X and
Yes.
George Lynch from, of course, Dokken
Hmm.
and Lynch Mob. Great album in 2014. I think you caught fans by surprise with this one. Will there be
Hmm.
more?
I thank you for the compliments. I appreciate it. We're really proud of it, and
Yeah,
it
should
sold
be.
quite decently for being no touring and that much promotion. We really want to get some, like I said, like you said in the beginning. I just had a baby, so it's really hard to tour. Even though
Hmm.
Korn's taking a lot of more time off this year, but yeah, we're definitely going to do another record. It's just George is in like 7 bands. Doug's all over the place. You know,
Yeah.
been writing a record with Korn doing a couple other things. It's a lot for me too. But we're definitely we're already talking about getting together. And I relocated to Nashville a year ago, and those guys still live in LA. So, but I'm not in LA so much anymore that it's not that big of a deal to go out and write, and do so. But yes, we definitely will play some shows, and there definitely will be an album too, for sure.
Yeah, now I know that our time is ticking because I have to run off to Def Leppard, and I think you have a signing to do. But
Yep.
You are coming to Heavy Montreal in August. It is an incredible festival. Last year, Metallica played 80,000 people over 2 nights showed up.
Wow.
You are gonna, if I'm not mistaken, you're closing the festival this year on August 9th. And you will be doing the first album in full, the 20th anniversary of the first album.
Yes. We're doing the whole first record, and we do like 3 or 4 hits at the very end of the show.
Yeah, talk to me about that. Now, the interesting thing, obviously, is you didn't play on that album. So how was it for you to actually sit down and learn this thing from start to finish? And what can sort of fans expect from that night?
You know what? It's interesting because I was a huge fan of Korn, back in the day. Like, I was a teacher at Musicians Institute when that record came out, and I never forget one of the students bringing this record up to me going, "Hey man, can you help me figure out this song?" And I'm like, they go, "There's a new band called Korn. This is '94." Right? I go, "What's a Korn? That's a stupid name. It's spelled with a K. That's so." I remember just ripping on it, and then I heard the riff of Blind, and I went, "This is going to change everything," because all those bands from Seattle, all the Alice in Chains, Soundgarden, Pearl Jam, they were all coming out, and they all kind of sounded a little bit similar. There was nothing that unique. When I heard that first Korn record, I was just so blown away, and the riffs and Jonathan really captivated me. I mean, I do like the drumming on there. I'm not we're such different drummers, David and I.
Right.
You couldn't get 2 different drummers in the room if you tried. I mean, he's a very by the heart kind of player, and I am too, but we just come from 2 different backgrounds. So to be honest, it's quite challenging playing the stuff. I don't like playing to the record, but when I'm on stage playing with the guys, I love it because I can kind of do my own thing, but yet pay homage to what he played on the record and the parts. I really like his parts. I think they're very creative.
Right.
On that record. It's funny, you can tell how young they were, and there was just this fire about them. They just, things were pushing and pulling and speeding up and slowing down, and so it's but I love it, man. It's a lot. It's really fun to play, and we can't wait to do it.
Yeah, it'll be fun, and you are going to have an incredible time in Montreal. It really is a special festival. It's out on an island, obviously surrounded by water, and it's just it's something to see. Lead singer Jonathan Davis a few years ago was diagnosed with a blood disorder. Has that slowed him down at all? Is that why you have to tour in smaller increments?
No.
Or is he just perfectly fine?
No, he's fine, man. I mean, none of us getting younger. I mean, we're in our 40s, but you know what? We feel we're so dialed in. No one does any substance. No one. I drink a little bit of red wine. Everyone's on the wagon. It's an awesome. We're so focused on music right now that I think the band at this point's never sounded better. It's really a great time for John. His health. He just went through something, and in that past, he's totally okay with it now. He's unfortunately, we deal with stuff like that as it comes,
right.
But he's doing awesome. I mean, that guy goes for it. He makes every time I go on stage, and I'm like, man, I'm tired, and I'm going to take it easy. And I look at that guy going for it. You can't. I mean, there's not one day we don't give it our 110%.
Yeah, and then we'll finish with this. Army of Anyone, only active for a couple of years, but the album is considered a classic, if not a cult classic. Is that something at some point you would like to revisit? And not necessarily next year, maybe in 10 years, maybe in 2025 for a 20th. Or is that...
Well, I'm glad you brought that up, because we actually, Dean, Robert, and I have been texting back and forth, and I saw Richard at one of our festivals we did, and we're actually talking about an AOA 2 record. And
oh, great.
There was a lot of songs left over. Man, I was so bummed that record 2 didn't come out, because we were such on a... After that tour we did, we're just a machine, and Robert and Dean DeLeo are some of the most beautiful songwriters on the planet, as everybody knows, and we're definitely talking about doing an AOA too. So I don't know when. It depends on all our schedules. I mean, they have Chester in the band now, and Richard's doing his thing. I'm doing my thing. So when the stars align, though, it's going to happen, I would say, in the next 2-3 years.
Oh, that's wonderful. And Ray,
Yep.
great pleasure. I know our time's a little short today, but looking
That was great
forward.
talking to you, man.
Absolutely, and I'm looking forward to that show in Montreal. I will be there, and it's going to be a
Us
great,
too.
yeah, absolutely, going to be a great evening for everybody involved. Thank you
We
for the
love
time.
Canada, man. So yeah, absolutely, man. Take care. I'll see you there.
Thank you. Cheers.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. There you have it, folks. My interview with Ray Luzier of Korn playing the Heavy Montreal Festival, August 7th, headlining. Same night that you can see Extreme, Arch Enemy, Neurosis, Strung Out, Periphery, Gorguts, Fozzy, and many, many more. Head over to heavymontreal.com to get full festival information. Gerry, pleasure having you as the co-host. Before we get out, I have to mention you did Nothing to Lose and Come On and Love Me on the A World with Heroes tribute EP that's available over at iTunes.
Yeah.
Killer Dwarfs and you did fantastic, fantastic versions. And of course, you got to be Ace Frehley for a little bit. How was that?
Well, he was my hero, Mitch. I mean,
I
I
know.
have a Cherry Sunburst Les Paul only because Ace Frehley had one.
I know.
And so Kiss has been a, when we were recording Method to the Madness, Kiss were recording Revenge at the same time in the same studio.
That's right. I've
And
seen some of the pictures,
to be
actually.
privy to Andy Johns and Bob Ezrin sort of, shooting the shit. And somewhere there's actually video of Gene Simmons. I'm from Newfoundland, from St. John's, Newfoundland.
Mm-hmm.
There's video of Gene telling me Newfie jokes somewhere, which I would love to get my hands on. I think Russ has that.
Russ has a
anyway,
lot of the video.
I'm the biggest Kiss fan, and so to do these songs with the Dwarfs for this tribute album was gas. We love Kiss.
Yeah, you love Kiss. Now, how much fun would it be to meet Ace Frehley?
I don't know. I really don't know. As we all know, right? Sometimes you meet these guys and it's really fun. And I met him in passing at a house party one time, but it wasn't really much of a conversation. But, he's always going to be that guy with the smoking guitar,
Yeah.
Kiss Alive too, when you open, that guy.
It certainly would be nice to see Ace on tour, and I know Kiss fans, or some Kiss fans, hate when I say this, but I would love to see him back in the band. Not because Tommy or any of the other guys aren't good, but I think at this point, having Ace come on there and sing 3 or 4 songs, help with the vocals that are going on would be a great thing. But you never know, right?
Yeah, I mean, I really think that his presence in that band was important. Even if it was just the smoking guitar and Shock Me or something like that. I mean, it really did sort of give you a break from Gene and Paul. It added some dimension to it,
Right.
And yeah, I'm a huge, huge, huge Ace fan.
Right, and of course we're huge Kiss fans. I still support what they do, and it's always fun going to see them live. Especially now with having kids. Our kids are both the same age, and they love seeing the fireworks and the pyro and all that wonderful stuff. But there you go.
Mitch, my eldest son, who's 12 now, when he was about 3 or 4,
Mm-hmm.
he went out on Halloween as Peter Criss, and all of the neighbors, of course, thought I put him up to it. But I mean, had I done that, he would have been Ace.
Yeah.
It was Owen's idea.
Are you sure he wasn't dressed as Eric Singer? You never know.
You never know. Yeah.
There you go. So there you go. Great conversation with Ray Luzier and, of course, Korn. And at some point, we'll have to dig up the disco band video of U2 and throw it on YouTube or, study it.
There's video somewhere, actually, of that. Yeah.
There you go. Hopefully you'll join me for another episode. And, of course, folks, make sure to check out killerdwarves.com.
KillerDwarfsBand.com.
That's right, KillerDwarfsBand.com. Because a lot of great stuff going on. By the way, the Dwarves have been on a great tear the last 2 years. A lot of great shows. The cruises, M3. Band's on fire. Hopefully there'll be a new album soon. But hey,
it's been great, Mitch, and yeah, we're kicking around some song ideas, so we'll see. Yeah, for sure.
Well, you've got these 2 Kiss songs that you can always use as bonus tracks. So that there you go.
Awesome.
There you
yes.
go. Thank you, Gerry.
Thank you, Mitch.
Bye-bye now.